Hey guys, Political Junkie 2414 here, and welcome back to my next 2022 election analysis video. So today, just like last time, we're going to be taking a look at a particular state, one of the more obviously competitive state, and looking at the Senate and governor's races there. That is the state of Arizona. So in Arizona, we got some really interesting races and a pretty stark contrast between, the results that are pending or that are, expected, I guess, or, the results that are expected in both of these states are look like they're gonna go to it looks like Arizona's gonna split is gonna take a split this year. Looks like that they're gonna reelect Democratic Senator Mark Kelly on the Senate level, but the governor's race looks like it's pretty much a complete toss up. So before we get into it, I hope you haven't already. Make sure to like and subscribe, share the video, turn on notifications so you don't miss another video. Check out my non-political channel, Interactor127, and yeah, let's just get right into it. So Arizona's Senate race right now, according to the 538 forecast, the deluxe version, which is the most accurate the most accurate version of the forecast, um, gives Mark Kelly an 81% chance of winning his re-election against Republican challenger Blake Masters, 19%. So this is about about a 4 to 1 margin. So Blake Masters pretty much has a fifth percent chance, or not a 5%, but 1/5 percent chance of winning, or 1/5 chance of winning. It wasn't always that way, though. You see, back when this forecast actually became available to the public in July, I know that it was, over here before, that they started calculating numbers in June, but we didn't get access to it until June 30th. You saw that the race was pretty much a dead heat between Kelly and Masters. Arizona was a state that was very close on the presidential level in 2020. Historically, it's been a very Republican state, but with Hispanic trends and with the Republican, and with Donald Trump being pretty unpopular to a lot of moderate Republicans in Arizona, like the John McCain type of voters. It really started to become more competitive for the Democrats, and it actually shifted 6 points to the left in 2016, despite almost every single other state in the country moving to the left. Let's actually take a look at that. Let's look on a comparison of 2016 to 2012. Arizona shifted, 5.5% to the left. Not almost every single state shifted to the right. There were some exceptions. Arizona was a notable one, so was Georgia. Both of these states are now highly competitive states. Texas has as well, but it's not quite a swing state yet. It is a battle. It is becoming a battleground, but Texas is not our focus today. It's Arizona. So for Arizona, so the Senate election in Arizona and the governor's election are interesting because the governor's race, as I said, pretty much looks like a tie. Let's pull up the governor's projection right now, or the model for 538's model for the governor elections for Arizona. It's pretty much a dead tie. Kari Lake, the Republican nominee, has a 51 and 100 chance, or 51% chance of winning. Katie Hobbs has a 49% chance of winning. It's a complete tie. It's 50-50, and the popular vote is pretty much 50-50 exactly. Lake has a very narrow advantage over Katie Hobbs, and I think that that's pretty accurate. I think that Katie Hobbs not agreeing to a debate is going to hurt her. She is the current Secretary of State right now, and she did, pull off an upset to win in 2018, being the only Democrat who won statewide office in 2018. Besides Kirsten Sinema in the Senate race. And Arizona in 2018 was the state itself is usually more Republican down ballot, and Kari Lake does not have the same baggage, or not that she doesn't have the same baggage, but she doesn't have the same. She doesn't seem as controversial, it seems, to Arizonans. You see, if you go to the polling average on 538, you can look at Arizona's Senate race. You can see Mark Kelly is leading Blake Masters by 7 points. We are less than a month until the election, and Masters hasn't even cracked 45% yet. Granted, Kelly is under 50%, so that means that if, all the undecideds go to Masters, he would win. But honestly, I don't expect him to win by 4, and I still think that Kelly is favored, hence why I have the state as lean D in most of my projections. He can win if it's a toss-up. Sometimes I put lean states as toss-ups. And, I still don't expect Kelly to win by, a likely margin. I think that that's being too generous. I think he'll win by 2 to 4% at the end of the day. I think he might outrun his 2020 margin. And I get it. He was widely overestimated in 2020, but Martha McSally, the Republican who ran here, who held this seat in 2020, which was John McCain's seat, and they held a special election after he died. Rest in peace. But McSally, at the very least, led in a couple of polls. If we can go back at this point in 2020, if we can go back, McSally really wasn't doing too well, in the polling data, but she at least had led in, like, here or there polls, and yeah, all of them were Republican-sponsored polls. But at the very least, she had led in a poll. Let's go down here to Arizona and let's see. Blue, 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 blue. Even against Doug Ducey, of all people, Mark Kelly is leading. Doug Ducey would have been the perfect candidate for Republicans to run in this race. He's a moderate. Yeah, he's kind of losing some ground in the in the in well, what's it with like super far right Republicans or very super conservative Republicans. After he decided, after he refused to give in Donald Trump and overturn the results of the 2020 election. I don't think that Mark Kelly would have won against Doug Ducey. I think, you know, Mark Kelly is a very good incumbent. He has, a lot of fun. He has a big fundraising advantage, but the fact that he's even up against Ducey in Data for Progress, which despite being a Democratic pollster, does seem to be kind of overcompensating for their Democratic bias. They said that Marco Molinaro would win that New York's 19 special election by 8 points. That didn't happen, did it? But we don't talk about, but the Republicans don't talk about that because it's inconvenient. Anyways, to get away from that nastiness, you can see Mark Kelly was pretty much leading against every single challenger. In fact, the only person who was really coming all that close was either Doug Ducey or Mark Brnovich. Brnovich, I expected to be the nominee for a long time, and he would have been a great candidate for the Republicans. He won in 2018, his attorney general's race. In 2018 was a very good year for the Democrats in Arizona. I know I said, Arizona has more of a tendency to vote Republican in more, localized elections. But at the same time, you still have to give credit where credit is due. I, think that before I published my first prediction, I of course made it back in November of 2021. I didn't release it until May of 2022. Which I know that's a big time gap. I had tried to release it at times before. But in November 2021, and I regret this, I had Arizona's tilt D. It was a really bad time for the Democratic Party after they lost Virginia. I thought Mark Kelly would be able to hold on because of his strong incumbency. If I could go back, I would change that and say that Republicans would have won that race. But now I think that uh, Democrats are pretty solid in Arizona. I think that they're probably going to win it by, a lean margin. Not to say that Blake Masters can't win, but he is someone, who's being funded by Peter Thiel, who, if you don't know, Blake Masters is a venture capitalist, and, his former boss, Peter Thiel, has donated to a lot of right-wing candidates this cycle, including, like, J.D. Vance. I don't know if he's donated to Mehmet Oz. He's donated to a lot of Republicans, particularly in the Senate races. Blake Masters being the most notable one, and Teal doesn't believe, has said that he doesn't like that women, vote, or are given the right to vote. He doesn't believe, he says he is not, a fan of democracy. And Blake Masters has made some pretty controversial statements on abortion in the past, even before, Donald Trump came along, because Masters is a Trump endorsed candidate. He has said in the past that black people are responsible for gun violence, which is not a good thing in a, a swing state like Arizona. It's not a good thing to say anywhere, but I mean, it really hurts you in a swing state particularly. And, Blake Masters just does not look like he has it in him to win this race. I think that he definitely can. Arizona is still a competitive race. I think that this model is overestimating Democrats. If I could make my own model, which I mean, I'm sure I could, but I don't have the time. I'd give probably Masters about a 25% chance of winning, and Mark Kelly an 80 or not 80, 75% chance of winning. I think Kelly, this race will definitely narrow up, and the fact that it is narrowing up doesn't really surprise me. But if you look back, just like a day ago, Kelly was only leading by 5.7%. Now he's back up to 6.5%. So I don't really. I think the Masters will close the gap. As we get closer to the election, we still have about a month out. I think actually, we have 28 days out exactly from today because it's the 11th of October that I'm recording this. So can Masters win? Definitely. That debate performance, the debate happened between Mark Kelly and Blake Masters recently. Masters did pretty well, but I don't think he did as well as people say. I think, debates haven't usually had a big enough effect on Senate races. Cal Cunningham and Teresa Greenfield did really well in their Senate debates against Joni Ernst, or against Tom Tillis and Joni Ernst respectively, but they're not in the Senate. I know that there's kind of like this idea that Democrats like, um, that I guess like debate performances, and scandals, I guess, drive away Democratic support more because than the counterpart than if it's for Republican support, or if it's a Republican and it those scandals or those mess ups taking away support from the GOP. But at the same time, we have to look back at historical evidence. 2012, Mitt Romney was doing very well against Barack Obama in the debates. He did not win. He didn't really come too super close to winning anyway. He did better than McCain, but that's a topic for another video. Anyways, my point is Mark Kelly's very, well known in Arizona. He won by, he outperformed Biden by 2 points in 2020, and he at least, McSally was at least someone who could really do well with the woman vote. Masters is performing extremely underperforming. With Kari Lake, and Lake is already making the race for governor really competitive against Katie Hobbs. I don't know. I think that Katie Hobbs is a worse candidate than Mark Kelly, but still, I mean, Kari Lake is not that special either, and yet she is doing a lot better than Blake Masters is with the female vote, and just with moderates in general. I just think that Masters, he has, pivoted to the center. He's called Mark Kelly an abortion extremist, which, I obviously don't believe, but I mean, I guess it's really, him trying to get around the whole overturning of Roe versus Wade, and that hurting his campaign. But he scrubbed his stances on abortion off his website. He said that he's basically tried to compare Mark Kelly as this abortion extremist that wants to keep like Chinese and North Korean abortion institutions in place in the U.S., which I think is complete bullcrap. But that's just me. So anyways, I don't really think that Masters seems kind of like a two-faced candidate in my opinion, and I think that Arizonans, kind of recognize that as well. Mark Kelly's, is not as popular as he was in 2020, and honestly, he could still lose. Arizona is a very red state, and it's not a very red state; it's a very competitive state, and Masters has a shot, but I still think Mark Kelly pulls out ahead in the Senate race. Let's talk more about the governor's race. In the governor's race, Katie Hobbs is currently leading on the 538 polling average, but it's very, very close, and she has been underperforming Mark Kelly for a very, very long time. She has kind of surged a little bit recently, but Kari Lake has also been doing quite well in some of these pollsters, even hitting 50% in some of them. I think that this race is pretty much a dead toss-up. I have it as a toss-up right now. And by the way, I've filled in some states that I hadn't filled in last time because I wasn't sure if I was going to do videos on them. But to minimize time there for the governor's races, we'll only talk about four more. And I'll talk about a couple more Senate races. Um, what was I saying? I think while Arizona is a state where polling is not super off. Usually it overestimates Republicans, like in 2018 when Martha McSally was supposed to win her Senate race, but Kirsten Sinema came out on top. And in 2020, of course, Mark Kelly got overestimated by a couple of points, but it wasn't really that often. Honestly, he's doing better now than he was in 2020. I don't know if it's at this point, but he's still doing significantly better than Katie Hobbs. And honestly, I expect Kelly to probably be up by a similar amount when we reach election day, probably around 5%, and I think he'll win by around two or three. This race, I think, is going to go Republican in the end, but I don't think the Lake has it locked down. I think the problem for Katie Hobbs is she has, declined to debate Lake. She, doesn't seem to have the same kind of like moderate appeal that Mark Kelly has. She seems to be a lot more liberal. And she has a shot. I think that Lake is a really bad candidate for the GOP. If this was Karen Taylor Robson, this race would be lean Republican. Absolutely. Arizona, I think that, Kari Lake is someone I've underestimated. Personally, I think she's, not a good person, not, kind of I don't know. I'm not gonna offer any more of my personal opinions right now. It's not my job. But I do think, that she has, a strong coalition in Arizona. Seems like, she's someone who can, despite her extremism, can do pretty well in a state that's, kind of rejected some of the extreme views of, some of those in the, the Trump wing of the Republican Party. So, props to her. And I think that she's going to win on election day. I think that, we'll be in a similar position here. I don't think the polls in Arizona are really going to change. I think Lake might be up. I think that, this race is going to be pretty much a toss up all the way through to the end. Um, you know, and I don't know. I think that Hobbs can win, but her declining to debate Kari Lake just seems like really silly in my opinion because Lake is would be the easiest person to debate. I get it. Lake. She can. I'm sure that that debate would be quite a pain, but at the same time it'd help your campaign. So I don't think that Katie Hobbs is going to change her mind about that, and I think she's going to lose this race, unfortunately. Uh, but silver lining for Democrats is that they will win, most likely win, not guaranteed, but I think that they are going to win Senate race. The debate was good news for Blake Masters, but I don't think that he's going. I don't think it's really had an effect on the forecast. Um, it hasn't really had an effect on the polls either. So Senate race in Arizona, lean Democratic in my opinion, and the governor's race tilting Republican, but it's still so close. It's a toss up. So thank you guys so much for watching. Oh wait, right before I go, here's the county map. I think Maricopa will go to Katie Hobbs, but I think by a lot less than uh you know than Mark Kelly because I think that there are gonna be some McCain voters that just won't turn out for Katie Hobbs or they'll reluctantly vote for Kari Lake. Arizona's I think that the Phoenix suburbs are gonna be. I don't think Hobbs is gonna do too well there. But Lake won't do particularly well there either, but she'll do a lot better than Masters. So anyways, with that, thank you guys so much for watching this video. What do you think about, my race ratings? What do you think about the Arizona Senate and governor races? Let me let me know, down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, share it, turn on notifications so you don't miss another one of my videos. Check out my non-political channel, Interactor127, and my comrades channel, Growlings666. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things politics. See ya.